This movie, I find myself getting really bored with it at times. That being said, not saying that anything you've said prior to about the plot, the story, the script doesn't not work. I just think that the problems with this movie, that things that bog it down, for sure, 100%, Denise Richards' performance and the way that the director kind of goes about telling the story, even though like the story kind of works. But I think the story
this is no different than the Man with the Golden Gun episode where you're like, I hate Goodnight, and I go, I don't care about Goodnight. I care about Scaramanga. This is no different.
I agree Denise Richards is not a good part of this movie, but it doesn't like ruin the movie for me. She's not why I place it.
Stacey Sutton is obnoxious, but really hot, but it doesn't ruin Elektra for me.
I think for me, at least, I think when you compare it to View to a Kill, I'm like, it's better than View to a Kill.
Whatever the best part is about A View to a Kill, it's not as good as the best part about this movie, which is Elektra. Elektra, King, and James Bond, their interaction, Renard, all of that is like spot on, really solid. A View to a Kill has a whole fire truck chase scene, and I'm like, oh god. And then you got Christopher Walken. He's pretty good, but there's a whole lot missing with his character. His character is like, okay, I want to know more about this whole, like, he was like a science project by the Nazis or whatever. Like,
and you never explain it.
Yeah.
This plot story stuff is better. Yeah, you have this really cool Stockholm Syndrome story going on.
And then a reverse Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, but then you got Denise Richards' performance, and then I'm just thinking, like, Bond's got to deal with this the whole rest of the movie, and it's not an annoyance to him.
Replace Denise Richards with some nerdy guy that Bond gets to like, and he dies or something. Like,
Luigi.
Or just,
yeah.
Yeah.
What if this movie didn't have Christmas Jones at all, and not even a replacement? What if that just didn't exist?
I don't think it really would change it much for me. My brain just blocks out the existence of Christmas Jones.
I think there'd be more of a focus on Elektra. I think it would be genius.
Yeah.
I think it would be a little more, again, the last two, Tomorrow Never Dies in this movie are both, in my book, they're both bogged down by me wishing that there was another universe where I could pull out a copy of the movie that doesn't have stupid choices, where GoldenEye just made good choices throughout the whole story. And it still has the big dumb action, but it all works within the context of the story.
Exactly.
Whereas these two films make choices where you go, oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, they're just going back to Roger Moore stuff, where it's like, whatever, it's a popcorn movie. So, but the smarter movie would have just gotten rid of Christmas Jones entirely. Get rid of the TNA of Christmas Jones. And then what that means is that you're fixated. Bond is fixated on what to do with Elektra, because Bond could. She says at one point, remember the title of the film? What's the title of the film, boys?
The world is not enough.
Why does Bond say that?
I could have given you the world.
The world is not enough.
Foolish sentiment.
Family motto.
Because she says, I could have given you the world. Bond could have said, you know what? I love this chick. And just like Secret Service, f*** my job. F*** you, Queen. F*** you, King and Country. I love this chick. She and I are going to take over the world. Bond could have gone that route. And how cool would that have been if that was the temptation of loyalty to King and Country and Crown and all that crap? Or find his new Tracy and Blofeld at the same time, get with Blofeld and take over the world.
Was that offer ever on the table? Did she ever like offer that up?
That's what I mean. How interesting would that have been? But instead, he's gallivanting with big tits. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. That's where it's like you have to wonder if the director did not like the idea of Christmas Jones and wanted to do his character piece, you know? Maybe that's why Peter Jackson didn't join up. He's like, I'm going to go make Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of praise for Pierce. That was in the comments as well. Like, Pierce is awesome. Again, and my whole thing is I always say that, like, I don't really ever kind of consider Bond's performance movie to movie, because it's like, it's kind of the same every movie in my book. It's a guy, the character's a guy with ice in his veins. And I get it. They're all different actors.
But what you're referring to is that's a definition of a character. It's a guy with an ice in his veins. Performance-wise, I do think there's way more than that. And I get what people are saying. We saw this with Connery. It's like Connery starts the roll off. And he's trying to figure it out. By the time he does Thunderball, I think Thunderball is like his best performance-wise compared to the other films, because by that point, he's so comfortable. He understands how to do the role. Like he's kind of worked out all the kinks of what his version of James Bond is. When he gets to You Only Live Twice, he's like, I don't even want to be here. And it kind of shows in his performance. Diamonds Are Forever, he doesn't really give a shit.
He's having fun.
Guten Abend.
All of that being said, I'm just saying that I think it makes sense why people would say this is his best performance as Bond, probably because he's done it 2 other films and now he's kind of gotten into the groove of the character. And so he kind of knows how to play the micros, not the macro. I think when you talk about it, it seems like you're talking about the macro of like, I just don't look at it because it's James Bond thing, James Bond. And I think on the micro level, I think there's more instances of him like, oh yeah, he's doing a really great job here.
Well, what I see in this movie particularly is, if you recall from GoldenEye, I was talking about how Pierce Brosnan, he'll be all Roger Moore and he'll be all smiley. And then he'll go Connery and he'll just he'll put on these faces where like he can pull off the funny stuff.
See you back at the lodge.
And then he goes fierce. Pierce just goes fierce. Pierce fierce. Pierce fierce. He goes brutal. And I think that's why he may be the perfect Bond. Remember how it was like, oh, I'm Roger Moore. I don't want to beat up on Maude Adams or whatever. But with this, he's all, I'm Pierce. And then he just becomes like sociopath murderer. He has moments of just going fucking nuts. And I love that. I love that he can go so violent, you know, and then he can pull off a Bond joke.
I want to say this because it was something that I picked up on, and I don't know if you picked up on, but we were talking about him being like this perfect mix of Connery and Moore. When he says assets in that Spain scene, he says it like Sean Connery.
Perhaps you fail to take into account my hidden assets.
Like he says assets. I swear to God, he says it like assets. Yeah. And I hear it that way, and I'm like, is he doing an impression of Connery? And was just like, yeah, I'll just throw that in there. I'll just throw that in there.
Sneak it in and see if anybody notices.
And it's in there. It's in the movie, and I'm just, I love that. I love that he did that. Like, I think that's hilarious.
My hidden assets.
Assets. Do we have any more to say? Does Nans want to? Here's what I'm saying with the ranking. Put it where you want to put it at 8, and here's the reason. Because I, as much as I don't like A View to a Kill, I just like that. Just makes sense
but is it?
It makes sense because
you've been saying
list.
That you hate the list. I think the list is perfect, and I
hate
think
the list because of it's an argument.
I hate
the list. I'm sabotaging the list. I'm an anarchist. All this entire time, Nans and I have been plotting to kill you.
It's like I'm wearing those headphones that you electrify like in Live and Let Die.
No, but I agree. I'm agreeing with you because where the list stands, and also because like trying to compare it to View to a Kill, and it's like big flaws in the View to a Kill. The actor shouldn't be playing Bond. The Bond girl is annoying as shit.
James!
Zoran's great, but it's like you kind of wish that this movie was for a younger Bond, and I feel like it would have worked better. This movie, on the other hand, the Bond girl's
James!
But the Bond girl is incredible, and you have that Honor Majesty Secret Service type reversal that they're trying to impose into the film with he thinks he finds his Tracy, but he really finds his Blofeld.
Oh yeah. I mean, arguably Electra King is like one of the best bad guys we've had so far.
Yeah, this is Pierce Brosnan's OHMSS. It's just too bad. This could have been a list topper had they gotten rid of Christmas Jones and just focused the story on Bond and Electra and had her tempt him to come to the dark side, essentially. Quit the service and join me to take over the world. But Bond's loyalty is never once challenged like it is in other movies.
Stuff my orders. Go ahead, tell him what you want. If he fires me, I'll thank him for it.
My resignation, effective forthwith.
I'm not for hire.
Naturally, you do it for Queen and country.
And it could have been interesting, but instead, all of that potential was squandered for the sake of Miss Big Boobs. To your point, there are those similarities between The World Is Not Enough and A View to a Kill that go beyond them being a remake of each other with their connection to Goldfinger's plot.
Yeah.
again, like you just laid out, it's the Bond girl's annoying and like really, really hot, but annoying, and you kind of question why she's there at all. And then you have Zorin. Remember why we put Zorin below Dr. No? It's because Bond and Dr. No share a connection, whereas Zorin is just another megalomaniacal bad guy who Bond has no connection to. And that's a less interesting story than Goldfinger, where View to a Kill comes from, where they sit down and they talk and they have a battle of words before they have a physical battle. Elektra and her whole family story is so much more interesting than anything out of A View to a Kill. For all the reasons why we place A View to a Kill where it is, I think that The World Is Not Enough outclasses it.
As much as I argue about my whole thing about the action thing, I'm willing to just be like, okay, whatever. Based on
I can put the boat scene over the firefighters.
The boat scene over the firefighters any day. I'm just like, and it's also because I just like,
that's my least favorite part of the movie.
I don't want to stress about this movie that much because I'm just like, it's middling. On my personal list, this movie goes below Tomorrow Never Dies, but the way that these films are ranked up together, I'm like, it's got to go above it. I hate you. I just really hate you. And I hate you because I hate this is where it's landing on the list, and it makes a lot of sense, and that's why I hate you.
It makes perfect sense. I think it is the perfect placement.
And that is why I hate you, because it makes sense. And
you're just upset that it's above On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
This list is that's what I'm trying to tell you, and you're like, no,
this list is perfect.
This list is my personal list on the Brosnan films. As it stands, until we watch Die Another Day and I change my mind, if I do change my mind, this movie's the bottom of that list only because of how fucking boring this movie is in comparison to the other 5 movies, or the other 4 movies. Sorry, the other 3 movies. I'd watch GoldenEye, I'd watch Tomorrow Never Dies, and then I'd watch Die Another Day, only because Die Another Day is just so much more fun. And then I'd watch this movie. And that's what you're talking about, guilty pleasure. I get
Remember
that.
when somebody said to us, they were like, you guys should maybe consider doing like a, whatever they called it, where...
a tier list.
A tier list,
yes,
because not every movie is like Diamonds Are Forever, but Diamonds Are Forever and Tomorrow Never Dies and the next film in the series share a common bond. And that common bond is James Bond. No, that common bond is that they are... fun, and they're big dumb action movies. And shameless. I still think that this list is sacrosanct, and I think every position of every movie has been well thought out based on the context of where it is next to the movies around it. So again, like, doesn't break Dr. No's simple perfection, and it would be insulting to put The World Is Not Enough above Dr. No. But A View to a Kill is where it's at because it breaches Thunderball's threshold of not being a dumb piece of shit, but it has more clarity of plot than something like Secret Service or For Your Eyes Only that still has goofy stuff. Like everything, there's a reason for everything being where it is. And based on those reasons, The World Is Not Enough, I still think, is perfectly situated at the top of the above Thunderball threshold, but below the Dr. No threshold. The top of the Thunderball is at 8, which is below the Dr. No threshold of 7. And I think, again, being the guy who fixates on bad guy, because bad guy is always going to be what drives your story. When it comes to story, I think it trumps Secret Service, For Your Eyes Only, and A View to a Kill. It may have the big dumb action stuff of Tomorrow Never Dies, but it doesn't have the goofy Roger Moore shit.
Charlie, let me live it this way. If you had placed it like at number 5, I would have been like, get f***ed. Like, that would have been my reaction. I'd be like, you can go get f***ed. You placing it below Dr. No, at least it shows that you're like, oh, I have some restraint and I realize this movie is not that good because of those things. I can't put this movie below A View to a Kill for a lot of the reasons that I talked about on A View to Kill, because I feel like that movie's kind of for some of the other reasons. And this movie, I think, is better and it's classier.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I agree with you. I'm not going to go to bed and not lose sleep over it.
Won't lose sleep over it.
Sweet dreams.
GoldenEye still number 1. Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, License to Kill, The Spy Who Loved Me, The Man with the Golden Gun, Dr. No, Hello, The World Is Not Enough, A View to a Kill, For Your Eyes Only, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Thunderball, Tomorrow Never Dies, Octopussy, The Living Daylights, Live and Let Die, Moonraker, Diamonds Are Forever, and You Only Live Twice. I feel good about it.
It's a fair ending.